Hello, hello. Okay, mic auxiliary 3. Okay, that's mic auxiliary 3. How about now? Now it's working? Okay. Well, no idea what's going on with that. But it's working now. It's just on a completely different setting. Instead of the Rode setting, it's mic auxiliary 3. So, anyway, working back on Mandalorian armor, what I was saying was, much like this piece here, I have to add an angled piece in on this side to tie it into the bottom here, and that'll finish out this bottom part. And then the only thing left is to weld on a little bar on the inside of there to make this one solid piece. And then this chest piece is done for now. A lot more stuff to attach it and other stuff to do like on the inside and that. And I take that back. I got to do the Beskar heart too. So I might get around to that today. But to get this started, I have to grind this off just a little bit, match this angle up. So I'm going to mark that right now and then cut that. Alright. So it's easy, don't really have to measure anything, just need a straight edge to make a line. And then essentially make that line disappear. Thank you, friends, for stopping by to tell me that my mic was messed up. Otherwise, I'd have had a whole 2 hours of awfully boring video. There we go. So you can see I marked these two sides. I'm just going to grind essentially all the pen off. Then I'll be ready to use more of this steel. Probably going to have to cut it at an angle, but I'll see. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll grind that off first. I'm gonna have to get some more flap wheels. It's 4 wheels in general, actually. I saw they do have some of these wire wheels, the really gnarly ones that shoot wires everywhere, but make a nice finish. They have some of them that are loose wires. They're not bundled like that, but they're made out of brass. And I saw this thing online where they took an oxyacetylene torch like I have there. It's not working yet. I gotta wait for one of the regulators to come back from the shop. But they took it and they'd applied heat with the torch to the steel, and then they took that brass wheel and they hit it with that, and it seemed to transfer some of the brass onto it, and it gave the metal this really nice brass look, even though it was using steel. So it's kind of like coating it in a sense, and I kind of want to try that with something. I don't know what. It won't be this Mandalorian armor, but I do want to try it on something. Alright. that should line up nicely. Maybe. So, now to tie this in, I can't just do a straight rectangle like this piece is here. Because if I do that, then it's not going to match up. It won't match up in any way to this bottom part. But if I do it smaller and then kind of taper it, then it will. But first, I have to match this corner up, because it won't sit at a 90, obviously. It needs to be at an angle. So, I think make this my piece of metal, and I get this cut out first, then I can worry about the other angles, because then it'll sit true. So, I think if I take that off, that should give me that little angle. Oh yeah, that fits quite nice. I'll adjust it a little bit with the file, but it'll be good there. Yeah, well, it's almost perfect. Just knock a little bit off down. just a hair more. Then I'm going to have to rip it, which just means cut long ways to get the right size to match up with that piece on the one end, but then I'm going to have to cut it kind of rectangular to meet up with this end down here. Meet up as best I can. Alright, yeah, that's good. So, let's see. That there. Okay, so the usable part, or the part that I'm going to use, is about half an inch. Oh, exactly half an inch. Which I think that's what we have that piece. So, that's good news. So, make sure we're nice and square. Like this half an inch. Connect our two dots, that should give us our line. Okay. So now, with this piece in here, the top part should be about 3 inches exactly, but then the bottom part, to blend it, is about 3 and a I'm going to have to actually change this angle a little. Really hoping. Alright, that is going to take a little filling, but that's not a big deal. Alright. How far is that? A little over 3 inches. Alright. So, what I'm going to do is cut this small piece out, and then do kind of like I was doing on the front, or on the other piece up here with the file, and just kind of shape it to fit. So it's going to take a little finagling, but should work out well. Found sometimes with stuff like this, it's just easier to kind of do it on the fly rather than sit down and draw out every little piece and angle, because inevitably when you get down there and start attaching the steel, there's going to be some angle that needs to be adjusted or fixed, or would be easier this way or that way. And I don't want to say if you just wing it, because it's not really winging it, but if you just cut your smaller parts out and bend them to your will, sometimes it's easier. You barely see that line with the Sharpies going out. Oh yeah, much better. Alright, cool this off a bit because it will be hot. I just knock some of the rough edges off so I can actually fit it in there. If not, it becomes kind of a pain to guesstimate where you're at because all these little pieces of metal left over on the edge really keep you from getting a good solid seal. So now, I have this piece to go in there. I'm going to kind of want to lay it back a bit so it ties into this piece. So, I'm not going to be able to do that. What I can do is get it in here where I need it, weld it on this outside edge, and then cut this down to give me an angle that lines up kind of with that, and then fill it on the underside here to match up to it and grind that out. Which seems complicated, and it kind of is. It's just very much beating this and melting it into the shape that I want, and then grinding it smooth on the outside so no one's the wiser. So, as long as I line up my top angle here with my little inside angle here, that should be fine, and then I'll just do whatever I need to down there on that end to make it right. Okay. Alright. It's going to take a little bit of tack welding. Hold it into place. I'll use the MIG welder again, just the wire feed. Just to tack it in place. And then, once it's welded in there, then I'll use the TIG welder on the outside. I'll probably tack it on the inside as well, just a couple times. But I also know I'm almost out of wire on this. So, I have to be sparing for now. I have more, but I don't want to change it on stream. I keep procrastinating doing it off the stream. Whew. Burned into my glove a bit. But it's on there. Now, as soon as my daughter loads up, so I don't blind her with the flash, I'll just throw a couple tacks on the backside there, and then I can TIG weld the front. And then actually, as I'm looking at it from the back, from the angle that I gotta cut and then fill in down here, I think we're good. Alright. Couple little quick tacks. Pretty nicely lined up there. Alright. I'll weld it on the inside first. Just because I'm going to have to do a little bit of filling like in this bottom corner, which isn't a big deal. That just means at that part, I just got to kind of force a little more rod into that gap, and that'll fill it in. Then on the outside, when I hit it, that'll clean it up, and it'll look nice. Whereas if I do it opposite, then I have a big nodule on the outside here that I gotta grind off. Which also isn't the end of the world, since I'm grinding this weld off anyway, but it just goes a little easier if I do it this way. Alright, I'll just come in from the top there at an uncomfortable angle and hit it. TIG welder on, gas flowing. I'm gonna have to get more gas soon. Alright. So come in here, hit this. Get the rod. Alright. Yeah, should be good. Okay. There we go. All right. Ooh. Alright, so that was welding fast. Way too fast. I forgot to turn the machine down. It's twice as hot as it was when I was working on it before. It's not good. Almost blew through. Luckily I got some rod in there, so I'm good. May have melted through on the outside a little, like bubbled it up, but that's fine. Alright. That was exciting. Alright. Got it more or less done. And alright, yeah. No, it didn't burn through too bad. Looks like where it did hit really hot, it did leave a couple little pock marks, but I can fix those. after the fact. So come in and chip this across the top. Just weld it in here, weld it across, and then this piece will be attached. Then I can start grinding and cutting on it. Save my back and sit down. Okay. Very important. It's ugly, but it's on. Alright. So, that's on there. And mostly welded on both sides. Next I'll come in, well, I'll clean that weld up and then cut it. But if I'm going to do that, I might as well do both at the same time. So I should work on this other piece. That's fine. So let's cut out a new piece. What do I do with that chunk? Okay. Oh, found it. So, cut off another piece of metal that is 1/2 inch. Okay. 1/2 inch. Still have our 1/2 inch line there. And what was that, 3 inches we cut off? I'm going to go 3.5, just because I have to grind down that one side for that angle and fit it. But I'll do that once I have this little piece. There we go. Anybody has any questions, feel free to post them in chat. Or comments or suggestions, whatever you got. tried to, when I was cutting it, put a little bit of an angle on it, and I got it pretty close actually. There. Maybe a little more. There we go. Alright, so I'll weld this in. Line it up with those two sides, give it another tack in the middle, tack it on the back side, and TIG it into place. Well, that's not going to work. Used to wearing too many things in my head, they all feel the same. Beautiful. All right. Okay, clean that up and then TIG weld it like I did the other side, and then all that will be ready to be shaped and blended in. So, all right. I'll come through, TIG the inside of that, and then hit the outside. just gotta hit this little inner part here. May have blown through a little bit. I think I can fix that. Yeah, it blew through a lot. But I can fix that on this side. This side, with the way that I have the metal positioned, I don't think I'm going to actually need any rod. I think I could just fold that over into it. I'm going to give that a shot. The tungsten's all screwed up. I think that's why it was freaking out a little bit. But I got what I wanted done. There's a little hole that needs patching, but not bad. I got it rolled over. I think I'm actually going to use a new tungsten just because this is getting a little short, and until I stop procrastinating it and actually order the parts that I need to properly sharpen these, I'll just use a new piece and use the grinder, because there is an actual tool that you can use to sharpen these perfectly and all that, but I bought one, just doesn't fit my Dremel tool, so I have to troubleshoot that first. But in the meantime, this is why I bought extra. All right. There we go. Fill this little hole in here at the bottom. Ah. All right. That's filled in. Now I just gotta hit this upper part. And I can keep hearing Windows making Windows beeping sounds. Let me check on that real quick. Computer is not cooperating today. Alright, everything looks fine. Alright. Same deal, I can just fold that over. I don't need to add any rod. I may need to add some at the end. Let's hit it again. Alright, much better. Okay, and I filled in that little gap there. So that should be good. I think. So now that I have both sides on, I can come clean up the fronts of them. So I can see, get my nice smooth edges, and then I can cut and grind away at this piece to blend it into this bottom part. And then, once I do that, Looks like there's just a little bit of filling work to do there to tie this bar all the way to it. And I think that'll be it. I think for now I'm going to forego these upper side plates. So then depending how much time we have, I'll work on the Beskar heart. Alright, let's make it pretty. we have these side plates in. You can see them all matching the angles of everything else. Coming together nicely. Now, the only part that needs to be touched up is these edges down here, where I'm going to cut it kind of at a triangle so it matches up at this corner here. So, first thing is to cut these off, these little extra chunks off. And I think if I just zip them off even this way, that should get me pretty close to where I want them to be and get them out of my way. So, but I'm pretty happy with it. With each one of these like little additions like this that I put on here and weld into place, there's some little pock marks I'm going to fill in. But with all these like little things put into place, it starts to give this armor its shape, its depth. You can see what the end product, what I have in my head, you can start to see what's going to be the reality of it. That type of stuff makes me excited. That is my tungsten. So I get excited about that. When the crazy stuff that's in my head, I can actually see taking shape in the steel. It gives me the warm and fuzzies. Okay, got those cut off. Now I can start to see where to tie it in. I'll take the grinder and I'll grind these back flush with where I want them to be. And then it's going to come down to just angling the long end of that piece, and this should be done. Lots of steps, lots of moving parts, but you know, it's working. And this is my prototype armor anyway. It's my first time building Mandalorian armor, so. And a very complicated Mandalorian armor at that. Boba Fett's armor? Not complicated. Just a few plates, give it a little depth on the sides, and you're done. This has a million different angles. One of the things that prevented me from continuing on the helmet was some of the angles are like multi. If you have a piece of metal in there, how all these are just straight pieces welded around, and then straight piece, and then straight piece. On the helmet, there's multiple pieces like that, but they're actually twisted and bent in a couple, two like different directions. It's horrible to try to get steel to do that. So, still gonna do it, just not right now. actually just had an idea. I kind of don't mind that look. So, my original thought was to take like these pieces here and shave the angle off so it came down to this thickness. What I did here was just to prep for that, just ground these smooth this way. So this bottom angle is just the same here. But honestly, from the front, I kind of don't mind that look. Obviously this needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but that angle and that full length there, these are, they're not dead on my lines because I was planning on cutting a lot of that out, so I'm going to have to come back, make sure these are even on either side, but I kind of like that down here. Then right here, all I have to do is fill in that little triangular gap. This one's a little bit bigger, but fill that gap in, which isn't a big deal. I think I like that. So, alright. So then, instead of these angles, instead of grinding them back to like a triangle shape in here, I'm just going to take this straight in. So it's nice and even, continues this line straight down. See how that looks. Take some quick measurements. Should be ½ inch. Up here, it's a little more than half. Okay, take that mark off. happy with how that looks. Let me get the other side, then I'll take a step back, look at the big picture. Same thing, take a couple measurements. Oh man, that's pretty dead on. Yeah, alright. Well, that was an accident, but it works. Okay. Clean this up a little. Alright. That looks pretty good. I like that. So, try not to hit the mic, but that's about where it would sit. Right about there, so you can see the little angled part kind of ties into it there. Underneath, there's going to be some other segments of metal kind of angled down and around. But that is looking pretty good. Well, man, I can't see what you see, but lucky you. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with where that's at for now. That's Carhartt. I keep forgetting about it. I think it's because anytime you have to cut through the middle of something like this, it's a massive pain in the ass. I don't want to do it, but too bad. That would be the next part. Alright. I have my little one here. Now it's going to be a lot of measuring, figuring out the dead center of this chest piece, and putting some marks where I want them. All of that is going to take up quite a bit of time before I even start cutting. So, how much time we got, just so I know? 30 minutes. All right. Okay, so doing this type of stuff is really when you start hating yourself, because I can guarantee with all the grinding, all the cutting, welding, polishing, all that, this chess piece is not mathematically perfect. This is not going to be perfectly centered over this. These are not going to be perfectly lined up this way. And as soon as you start taking your square and everything else to this and measuring out to figure out exactly where the middle is, it ends up the middle's like right there, and you look at it and you're like, oh, God damn it. And this is where things get frustrating, but this is also where you don't necessarily get the dead center. If when I measure this out, probably be able to see it on this. If when I measure this out, I find, let's say, my middle's a little off center from where I want it to be. Well, then I look at that and go, okay, well, what's this distance here? It's, whatever, and then I measure that distance out, and it gives me another mark there. I'm like, okay, well, with this, visually, that'll look fine. That'll be the middle. So then I take my piece and figure out on here, go, okay, so if I line up there and there, then I bring this up. There we go. Visually, that'll be what looks best for in the middle. So sometimes you have to do stuff like that just to make it look good. It's a pain, but obviously not on the scale. It would be much smaller, but the same principle. So let the frustration and measuring begin. Okay, so this bottom part. First, I like just trying to get as many marks towards the middle as I can. So this is point to point. Wow, 7 inches exactly. So at 3.5 inches, that'll be 1 center measurement. Now if I measure from these outside edges, that is just a hair over a foot. If I line it up on there, I can fudge it. Give me 6 inches. Now, just a little more than I can do with that little one. And the cloth tape's kind of a pain to use for long distance stuff. Alright, so now if I measure from this outside edge to this outside edge, what do we got? We have a rounded surface. Okay. Chess piece is going to stay rounded. That makes long measurements like this kind of a pain. Yes, we are using the cloth tape. Right. Duct tape. That corner, this corner, we're at 14 and 7/8, just shy of 15, so that should be what, 7 and just under a half. That should give me the center there. Then we'll measure from our little inset angle points, which is 13 1/4. So that comes out to 6 1/2 would be 13 1/4, so 6 5/8. 6 5/8. Alright, so I have top mark, middle mark, another middle mark, and a bottom mark. Should be the exact center of the chest piece. Hopefully. So now, I have measured from the outside edges. Now what about this inner edge? Comes out to 6 inches right there. So then my 3-inch mark is okay. My 3-inch mark is dead on, actually, to that. So that makes me happy. Because inevitably, if this was slightly over to one side or the other, then I'd end up with those 2 marks like I was talking about. Then you kind of split it down the middle. But this, if you're looking at it, your eye is going to equate this detail to whatever's closest to it. So if I have the Beskar heart here, this gap here is closer to the heart than these out here are. So if you were to look at it, and let's say the center here was actually like about there, your eye would look at that and go, ah, what the hell, that's, off center. So typically, if you do have these like out here or out here, but this in the middle lines up just a little bit off, you kind of want to go off of this, or like I said, just barely split the difference if you can, because it's going to be what looks best. So luckily in this case, my mark came out right on, so I accidentally did something right. And now that I have multiple marks, and I had to do a whole bunch of extra marks because the chest piece is angled. So now I can mark a line. Sharpie's dying. Sharpie's dead. Alright. I have more in my wasteland mug somebody made me. Filled with Sharpies and ready marks, and I don't know what that is. Yay, it works. Put the scary mug away. Alright. So, match up our lines there. Oh yeah, that works way better. Match up our lines here. And then, okay, actually I screwed that up. It's hard because this is where that bow is. And luckily my squares are not bowed. It's not a good thing if they are. Got it. Okay. We have a line coming down the middle. Ignore that little spur that hangs off of it. But okay, so that gives me now a line where I can center my Beskar heart on. As long as I put the top and the bottom on that, should be pretty good. It should be lined up. So now, so you can see, I have my line. Right here, that little extra piece, that's where I screwed up. When I was trying to do it at that angle, I came just to the left of the mark, or right of the mark, however you want to do it. I'm doing it off the armor, being the patient, so patient's left. But, alright. So now, as long as I line these two tips up along this line, it should look pretty good. Here, actually. So there. That's what it should look like. And that doesn't look half bad. So, in fact, let me take a step back to look at it. Does that look good? Does that look right? Let me reference the picture. Okay, so probably won't be able to see it too well, but for reference, that is Paz Vizsla's. You might not be able to see it, it's a little dark. Let's see if I can. No, that's all the way up. Alright, so don't know if you can see that, but see, it's almost dead center between the two. So if I measure this, where are we at? So here, about 3 3/4. Here we're 3 1/2. So that's almost in the middle. Just a hair higher than lower, which I personally think looks better. But I guess if it's right in the middle, or if it's like a little bit in the middle or lower, it's more of a Beskar sternum and a little higher up for the Beskar heart, but still. Alright, so I kind of like where it's at right now. What do you think? Can I get a second opinion from somebody? Let's see. It's kind of hard to see. Let me. Make it any easy? Not really. Whoa. I'm looking at it now on the camera too. I kind of like it right there. Just a hair below this angle point that we have coming across. It's high enough to where it's not like a Beskar belly button or anything. So, kind of like it there. Alright. So the next step. Get it lined up. Okay, so there we go. Now, the hard part. Cutting that out. So, in order to chop that out of there, I have a few options. I can use an angle grinder with the wheel on it, the cutting wheel. Problem is, I won't be able to do a lot of the cuts with that. Because if I come in here and I go past to get that cut, there's going to be lines sticking away past. Which isn't the end of the world. That is not the worst thing that can happen, because I can fill those in with the TIG welder just fine and then grind them smooth. It is a bit savage to do that. For ease, I might just be a savage and do that anyway, because that might save me the inside here. Because what my plan is with this is to cut this out, so there's a hole there. I'm going to take a backing plate, put a plate on the back, and make sure it's just a square that goes around it that's big enough. Then I'm going to mark on that this inside shape, and then take this extra piece, drill a couple holes, probably 4 holes in that backing plate, take this piece that came out of here, put it on there, and then from the back side weld those little holes in, so you won't be able to see welds anywhere, and then take that back plate and put it back inside here. So this should be flush. It should be the same like thickness across, but there'll be a defined little gap around the outside edge for one, because of where the blade cuts, so that'll make a gap, and I'll have to clean it and like bevel it a little bit, so that'll make the gap just a little bit bigger. But behind it there'll be solid steel that you'll be able to see, and it'll also make the front of the chest just that much stronger. Not that that's really an issue or something I need to beef up, but it would. So that's my plan, to give me the look of the inset Beskar heart, and then I'm going to add just some little details to the top of the heart, just so it's not multiple just flat pieces of steel. Not entirely sure what I'm going to do yet. Paz Vizsla's just has like a little square with some like little lines coming off of it. Some of the other ones have just like a little mini diamond in the middle. That seems like a pain in the ass, so I don't think I'll do that. But I'm going to play with it. I might do something like a little more stylized to what our clan's going to be. So yeah, first things first, I gotta hack this thing out. So what I could do is I could drill holes through this, then take like a jigsaw in there and cut in between those holes. That of course would ruin this inside one, and I wouldn't be able to use it. If I'm cutting it with the angle grinder through like that, kind of a savage, there is still a chance if I don't get these lines right, because it's more important that these lines are right than the inside. If I do that and it's off a little bit and it hacks into this, then that's just going to ruin that, and I won't be able to use it and have to cut out a new one. Not the end of the world, but more work. But that's really it. My Dremel tool's down right now. It's not functional at the moment, so I can't get in there real close with those cutting wheels to do it. I don't think. I do have another rotary tool that was given to me. And I have some cutting wheels. So potentially I could do what I was going to do with this, but do it a little less savage. Like getting that in there. Alright. What? How much time do I have? I have 10 minutes, so I'm not going to get any cutting done tonight. I think what I'll do is in my off time, I will check out that other rotary tool that I have, kind of like a Dremel tool, but a little bit bigger. I'll check that out and see if I can get that working pretty consistently, because then I'll be able to do what I was going to do with the angle grinder, but just a little bit more precise, a little less cutting into this metal and more cutting specifically the heart out. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So, I'm happy with the way this turned out, though. These angles down here on this little side piece, that was really the piece that was much more complicated than the others. It's like the chest piece had just these little these angled bar stock on the outside to give it that thickness, to give it that layering. This little side plate had the same thing, but with the 1/4 inch, not the 3/8. So, same thing, just slightly thinner plate of steel there. But this little piece didn't really have anything like that because it was a transition piece, so it couldn't really. If it did, it wouldn't have any. It was the piece allowing me to have these kind of neat little angles attached to the armor, whereas the rest of this is kind of just plates. And then this is what really tied in and gave it those flowing angles and that you see on the actual armor that Paz Vizsla's wearing. Which, again, I'm not making his armor. I'm making my armor based off of his. Yeah, I never welded the inside of this. Right here. So, well, that needs to be cleaned up a bit. It's alright, I'm seeing some little spots that need to be cleaned up, but that's not the end of the world. You'll do that once everything's all nice and done, then you come back and just do a final sweep of it and find out exactly what needs to be ground down a little bit, little holes that need to be filled in, and that's all work that TIG welder does really well. You just come in here and weld these fine little holes, like this here. You come in with the TIG, and you get that hot, get a little pool of molten metal around it, and then you dab in your rod of molten metal, and then that whole thing kind of blends together. And then when you come back and you grind that off, it's just perfect. It's just like this steel. You couldn't even tell. So I'm going to have to do that in a few spots. Some of these little ones I'm not going to worry about. Alright, I'm essentially just taking a knee and winding out the clock for tonight. So, yeah, I'm happy with how this is turning out so far. It looks good. A lot of little things to overcome, like attaching the leather straps to the top, the shoulders. I gotta figure out a way to do that with these rivets either non-existent here or hidden. I was thinking of just doing little magnetic pieces that just attach there, little detailed things that you see on a lot of the armor, to just cover up the rivets. Somebody in chat yesterday recommended upholstery tacks. I'm going to look into that, because why not? Yeah, lots of little things to think about with the armor. And the reason I don't want visible rivets is if you go online and look at the actual Mandalorian registry of clans of just all over the world, people have them and they're actually registered in a thing. There's specific rules that you have to follow, like with the armor, you have to have it of a certain quality. You can't just go buy a Walmart Halloween costume and show up and try to be a part of them. I just tell you no because you don't look good enough, which, I mean, it's a volunteer organization, all of them, so I mean, if they want strict rules on their stuff looking good, yeah, okay, makes sense. A lot of their stuff is I don't want to say movie quality, but you're pretty close. Looking online, you see just varying qualities of stuff. Some people here okay, that's clearly just some plastic kind of cobbled together, but you painted it well and it's kind of covered up and shaped pretty decent. And then there's other ones you look at and you're like, oh my god, that's better than the armors that I've seen on the shows, and that's holy crap, that's amazing. So it kind of runs the gamut of everything in between. I'm shooting for nice, right down the road. Looks good enough that you look at it, you go like, oh yeah, alright, that looks solid, but not. I don't have the skill to make something beautiful movie quality. But what I do have is steel. Won't be made out of plastic, it'll be solid steel. If I ever finish it. Won't fit me, I'll have to attach it to my walker someday. That'll be about when I finish this damn thing. But I'm learning a lot about it. So when I do come back and make other sets, because I do have a plan to make at least 3 more sets, probably 5, in the end 5 sets of Mandalorian armor. I think I'm the only one who's going to wear the heavy infantry stuff, which seems to be way more complicated than, like, say, Boba Fett's or even Mando's, Din Djarin's. His isn't. His is more complicated than Boba Fett's, but not by a lot. It's just a few more of the angles like this, a little bit beefier. Whereas Boba Fett's just looks like, essentially like this. And this is the back plate that I haven't done anything on yet. But his is just, I mean, just flat plates that are in that shape that just kind of, I mean, the shape to them, there's a little bit of a curve and a little bit of an outward curve to them. But other than that, they're just kind of plates on a vest. Like Paz Vizsla, I think that's what made him look so beefy, is the only Mandalorian armor we had seen before was like Boba Fett's, and that was pretty thin. And didn't have a whole lot of coverage. You look at Paz Vizsla, and he's just a meat mountain with an equal amount of armor on. But, alright, so I'll show you the 2 sides. You can kind of see how the depth that we added there, you know, really makes it look, instead of this kind of flimsy, you know, piece of steel that, although it's welded together, and I mean it's steel, so it's strong. You can see it's flimsy and wobbles around. Adding on these bracing pieces and that is not flopping around and all that. That is solid, because we've added a lot of bracing to it, a lot more surface area to it, which adds to that. So this is where we started. This is where we're at now on one side. I think that's pretty good. Good news is this back piece is flat. It's not. It doesn't have the curve and the angle point running down the middle of it like the chest does. So this will be easy because these are just straight pieces. Straight pieces. I don't have to worry about the neck and all that. And then because on the back it's not going to have the same up front here, these plates that kind of come around underneath, that flex around underneath it, are going to be just in the front, because that's all the only place that they have them. On the back, there's just, I think I'm just going to do another plate, just kind of a straight plate down here underneath. So it won't have the cool detail of the front, but it'll still have that kind of articulating coverage. As you bend forward, this bottom plate would kind of ride down. So if this is the plate underneath here, as I were to like bend forward and lift my back up, there'd still be a plate there that it articulates off of. So you wouldn't see any of the undersuit on the back or big fleshy bits. You're fully armored and covered no matter how you move. But that doesn't need to be, it'll have the depth in it, like that I'm doing here with this, except I'm not going to do 3/8 on the back piece. I'm just going to do the 1/4 inch all the way around. But then I don't think I'll add in too many of these like angles that I have on here on this middle piece. Maybe 1 or 2, but it doesn't need as many, because on the back it's covered, but 2, it's the back piece, so it doesn't need to be as thick, doesn't need to be angled quite the same. I am going to be wearing a cloak with it, kind of like a long cape, essentially. So I'm going to have that with it. So it will be covered, but for my own peace of mind, I want to add enough detail to it to where it looks good. It matches this front, but is very clearly a different piece. So, okay. Well, that's all I got for today. I'll be back on Monday. Monday I'll be working on this again. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I work on the Mandalorian stuff, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays I do more of the artistic stuff, working with, you know, horseshoes and garden art and stuff like that, farmers market type stuff. So alright, I will be back. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back on Monday at 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. Pacific time. Alright, thank you guys very much, and I will see you then. Are you still there?